So, a couple things that people are messing up with in terms of AI and prompting is that they are just kind of using it like a Google search from 2011. Okay, so the main critical part of this is to know how to prompt the LLM or the large language model. Okay, so I'm going to go over this real quick. This, of course, is just a little snippet. January 28th, 2026, I'll be having a virtual workshop on all things AI and productivity and why, from a mental performance standpoint, you've got to start incorporate these tools into your coaching, into your creation, into anything that you're doing that involves tedious time so that you can buy back your time, right? So we'll jump into this real quick. All right. So number one, you have to become a prompt engineer. And the cool thing about this is you don't have to, take all these things like when you attend the workshop, like I'm going to give you this Notion doc. So you can just copy and paste that into chat and then it'll help you become the engineer that you want for the exact thing that you need to work on, right? So anyway, so when you actually do the prompting, right? So you have to think about what you want. So let's say that I needed to, come up with some ideas for my newsletter, or I needed a little bit more research on sports psychology principles behind building confidence after setbacks, overcoming injury, whatever it may be in that specific example, right? But you have to break it down into an actual 5-part prompt architecture or become an architect, right? So number one, the role. Okay. So when I do this, I use AI as either my expert researcher, as my financial consultant, as my business coach, or as my newsletter writer. Okay. And I've already identified specific roles within those projects. But when you prompt it to be a specific person, now it knows how to be, right? So for me, teaching mental performance, I would say you are acting as an expert sports psychologist with deep experience into visualization and mental imagery. Okay, cool. 2, what exactly is this for? What are we trying to do? The purpose of this output is to help me do this. What is the outcome of what I'm trying to accomplish on this task? Okay, write a quote that sounds exactly like me. All right, of course, that has to know who I am. So that's a whole different part that we cover in the workshop. Build a paid product that I can sell to coaches. Okay, cool. Obviously, I can't just sell, hey, how to be a coach. I have to relate my experiences, my authority, my authenticity into that product, right? So that comes back to the language. Okay. And my thinking needs to be a repeatable framework. So if I'm scripting short form videos, okay, I want it to already know who I am and what I'm doing, but always know what the intent is for, right? Okay. Number 3, input. What's it going to work from? Okay. It's not going to invent new thinking. I like this, right? People think, oh my gosh, it's going to take our jobs and it's just an easy way out. No, it's bringing out the best of you thinking, right? You can tell it to interview you, to ask questions, to build your authority. So what you should do is provide bullet notes. You should put some thoughts down. You should have a voice example, past writing, transcripts, messy ideas. Personally, what I love to do is to dictate my ideas into my dictation app when I go on a walk, when I get a chance to kind of sit down, when I go on a drive, when I'm thinking about something. I'll just start dictating into my app. It transcribes it into a text, and then I can upload that for future reference into the LLM. Okay. And just as one little format. All right. So always give it like some juice of what it needs to be doing. Okay, number 4, the constraints. What must be respected? Okay, it's different. This is the difference between the average and elite outputs, right? You want it to do a specific, awesome task, and you're wondering, like, why does this sound so glitchy and AI-ish? But some constraints would be direct, grounded, non-motivational, okay? Who the audience is. All right. The format. Do we want sentences? Is this kind of more serious? Like a LinkedIn post? Should we be doing, no emojis, no hype? Is this professional versus, is this an Instagram caption where Instagram loves emojis, right? Is it instructional, confident, not poetic? Okay. All the good things. Okay. And exact word or limits. Okay. So what you should do is obviously have a reference point. So if you're creating a post, if you're creating content, if you're creating a long form email, a sales email, which you should almost be having a database in your mind or on your computer or phone saying, what resonates with you? What do you click? What do you dive into when you look at it? What tells you that you really want to take a look at this email, take a look at this Substack post, whatever it might be. So the more constraints that you can come up with, the more precision. All right. And you can keep refining it as you go. You can say, oh yeah, this prompt is good. And then you can say, let's make it 1,000 times better, things like that. So anyway, output format, what is the final product that you want? Okay. Never just say, write this without saying a form. Okay. You need to tell it exactly what to do. Return 5 standalone quotes. Create a 3-section framework with headers. Output a product outline I could sell. Okay. But the formula is to deliver the final answer. Okay. So what I would do too in this point is, what are you trying to create? Give it an exact example of what you're trying to do. Right. So if I had a newsletter from somebody who I really admire and love to listen to them talk or love to listen to their writing, I would copy and paste that entire newsletter into the LLM and say, this is what I want. I want something like this. Or if it's an Instagram post or caption, I'd say, man, this caption really resonated with me. I want it to be very similar to this, the same qualities and, points. Here's an example. So what does it look like after? Okay. So use this exact quote prompt when you want something that sounds just like you. Okay. Pay very close attention to this. You're acting as a writer who can mirror my exact thinking, tone, sentence structure. The goal is to extract my voice, not to rewrite it. Only use the input below. Do not add ideas, metaphors, or motivation. Here's the constraints. Short, direct sentences, clear authority, no hype, no emojis, no filler. Sound like a coach explaining truth and not selling. And turn the input into 3 to 5 standalone quotes I could post publicly. Okay. And then boom, here are the notes based on my research. So, this week I was working on grit, confidence, resilience, and, deliberate discomfort to create discipline, right? So I'd put all my notes into there, each one into a TXT file, and I would upload them into the project or whatever I'm working on with it. Okay. Use this when you want to have an AI assisted product that feels authored by you, right? So you're acting as a product architect for coaching, education, business. Purpose is to turn my thinking into a sellable product without charging the core ideas. Okay. So basically, this is something that, is turning into the future of coaching, where you have these personalized AI models that, anybody can say, all right, let me go pull up Grant's website, I have access to it, and pull up his GPT, his custom GPT that thinks like him, and ask it a question. Cool. Done deal. You have access to my brain essentially, or whatever I put into that AI agent or that GPT. Okay. Make this clear prompt when your thinking is correct, but not yet sharp. You've got a messy idea. You've got some notes. You've got things that you've written down. Basically, you can use this to really just clarify it and break it down into pieces for you, so you can understand it a little bit more clearly, right? So I'm going to wrap it up, but AI works best when you treat it like the editor, okay? The translator of you and your thinking, or a systems builder, okay? Not something that's replacing you or replacing your ideas. You've still got to be creative. You've still got to come up with the content. You've still got to do your due diligence in your research and what you find, but that's the easy part. That's the fun part, right? You're able to go for a walk, put the audiobook in, you're able to check out an article written by somebody you admire and look up the topics that you want to look up on, your social platform, and just write it down, and then just start writing every day. And then you'll have this endless bank of content that you can just feed into different systems and different models, right? So the more clearly you can think, the more powerfully the model will respond. So prompting is critical. Of course, I'm going to go over all this, everything more in my workshop, January 28th, 4 p.m. Link is in the description. Thanks.